following program is to provide entertainment and information. It is not considered to be any legal or investment advice. Good morning, appraisers. Let's talk some real estate. You're listening to the Voice of Appraisal, the #1 appraisal podcast in all of America that always brings you the latest news and information from the front lines of the real estate market. Anything from market conditions, appraisal regulations, cryptocurrencies, big bank news. So if you have questions, we have your answers. We are the one-stop source for all of your real estate appraisal information needs. If you want to be in the know, you have definitely tuned in to the right show. My name is Phil Crawford. I am your host, Kevin. Holy. Oh. I mean, 11 years ago, Kevin, 11 years ago, people came to us and said, what can you possibly talk about when it comes to real estate appraisal on a podcast? And now we know.
Here
and now
we are. 11 years, but here we are.
All right, let's go through it. If you've been living under a rock for the last 10 days, you have not heard the news that Dr. Cindy Chance is taking the Appraisal Institute and Craig Steinle to court. Kevin, go ahead and pull up the New York Times article. The New York Times article dropped on May 8th, 2025, a day that will probably mark the end of the Appraisal Institute moving forward. I'm telling you, it's that bad. It says here, wildly inappropriate behavior. Real estate group is accused of cover-ups. And bottom line, it discusses Dr. Cindy Chance's most recent lawsuit against the Appraisal Institute and its former president, current vice president, Craig Steinle. We talked about Craig Steinle last show. Remember that? We talked about him on the last show. I told you, I said this is the first time that we're hearing Steinle's name on a national level. Now we know something was kind of brewing there a little bit. That was from the Biz Now article. They did a lot of background as well on this.
I have a feeling this is not going to be the last time we hear him on a national level.
This is, yeah, well, you can just Google this right now, and you got article after article. I think Housing Wire's picked it up. It's just all over the place. The Appraisal Institute has a massive mess on their hands, and they are embarrassing 40,000 real estate appraisers across the country. Designated or not designated, they are embarrassing us all. This culture, I've heard rumors about it. Again, these are just allegations, but if any of these allegations are proven to be correct and accurate, then the Appraisal Institute, you got to shut it down. Just shut it down. It's over with. It's done.
Do it again. Just reform.
Not even reform, just
get rid of them all. Let's try it again.
There is a good foundation there. There's a foundation of good appraisers, but they need to go to a totally different house because that one can't be rebuilt. I'm going to go over the complaint with you guys in detail a little bit here later on in the show. I'm going to get into some points. This is a civil complaint. This is not a criminal complaint. It's very important to determine there. Remember, this is not any legal or investment advice on this show, but there's some Easter eggs inside of this complaint that could move towards possible criminal activity if we get deeper and deeper into this lawsuit. Now, a lot of you out there have speculated that Dr. Cindy Chance is probably going to end up taking a settlement. But I can tell you right now, given the knowledge that I've got, I'd say there's probably an 85 to 90% chance this goes to trial.
There's no way she's going to settle.
She's probably not going to settle. And she's asked for a trial by jury, right?
Correct.
She wants a jury trial. So that is amazing. When you go through this complaint, bit by bit, piece by piece, everyone is impacted. This touches so many different avenues. It's not just the accusation of sexual misconduct by Craig Steinle towards Dr. Chance, but it's all of the other stuff. It's the REVA. It's the appraisal management company. Arrow, the big REVA room meeting that took place in Chicago. It touches everything. This is going to end up being the trial of the century for real estate appraisers. You think I'm being dramatic? I am not being dramatic because right now it's 2025. Kevin, if this goes to trial in 2026 or 2027, all this comes out and these allegations prove to be true, this is going to change the way that appraisal is regulated, is done, is structured throughout the entire banking system for probably the next 70 years.
Right.
It really will, because you know how the financial system works is this. They it up. They fix it. 70 years later, they it up again. That's how it works, right? Like, take a look at the 1930s, right? We had 1930s, and they fixed some stuff. You take it all the way to the 1990s, where you have Glass-Steagall being repealed by Gramm-Leach-Bliley, and they it up again. You get 2008. Right. That's what happens. So I think what's going to end up happening here, this will be the trial of the century, and everybody's going to be called in.
Right.
Everybody's going to be deposed. Appraisal Institute officers, Appraisal Institute board members, people that are affiliated with Craig Steinle, all of Craig Steinle's people that he's ever talked to or done business with, this is all going to get blown up.
I do have to go on record to say, Phil, for myself anyway.
Yes.
We always take things in a lighthearted approach. We try to. We keep it entertaining. We keep it light. This is not a laughing matter.
This is the moment.
This is it.
This is it. This is a culmination of all of the warnings that we've been putting out for the last 11 years on this podcast. If you do this, this could happen. If you do this, this could happen. This is what's happening. It's happening right now. That's the most amazing part. We talk about the Appraisal Institute officers and the board directors. Let's look at the REVA. Let's look at the REVA room. They're all going to be called in on this. Everybody that was in that room. Now, after this article dropped in the New York Times, Cindy Chance posted it on her LinkedIn account, okay?
Right.
Right afterwards, that same day, she posted a YouTube video. So you can go to her LinkedIn. She posted a YouTube video as to exactly what happened during this REVA room meeting that took place in Chicago while she was the CEO. Remember, she was taken into a room with 12 people of REVA. Now, for those of you who don't understand, REVA is the AMC lobbying model. That's the Appraisal Management Company lobbying group. She was taken in that room, 12 guys, and there was actually 13. But she came back out and she said Scott Diabazio was the 13th warrior. Okay, so there's 12 people plus the 13th warrior, and they're in there, and they had this conversation for 4 hours? What the fuck was said in 4 hours in the REVA room meeting? That's all going to come out. Every one of those people that were in those meetings, that's all going to come out.
And how many times did we always say, when you have these meetings, closed door, you're asking for trouble?
We've warned about the REVA room for a long time. And speaking about the REVA room, remember, the REVA room was at Aero in the Aero conference for many years. I don't know if it's still there or not. Aero's going to be brought in on this. The Appraisal Foundation, Cindy brings up educational issues on this. The Appraisal Foundation is going to be brought in on this. The entire appraisal industry is going on trial. It's going on trial. Everybody that's involved is going on trial. And if you haven't been listening to Kevin and I for 11 years with our warnings to say, don't do this, it's possible antitrust, don't do this because you got possible conflicts of interest, and blah, 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 and all this stuff, it's all going to come out. It's all going to come out. Everybody is going to be called to the carpet in this trial because this is it. We knew it was going to happen, Kevin. When you have an individual, a highly intelligent, knowledgeable individual who has not been in this industry but comes into it with fresh eyes and says, wait a second, what's this all about? And she goes, what? For those of you out there that are members of the Appraisal Institute, look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know that Jonathan Miller just recently put out on one of his emails saying it's going to be really, really hard for you guys to, quote unquote, write that check. Because you know that check, that dues payment, that check that you're going to write at the end of this year is going to end up going to the defense of Craig Steinle and the Appraisal Institute. And what if these allegations are true? I mean, what are you going to do? How are you going to go home to your wife? And how are you going to go home to your daughter? And these allegations are proved true and you wrote that check out. You know, I don't want to be in that position. You do what you want to do. It's your money. But you might want to be looking at some sort of a dues hiatus. I don't want to use the word strike, but just get your shit together and we'll pay you afterwards type of thing, because your credibility's on the line.
I'm not going to sit there and give my hard-earned money to help somebody that
who's damaging your credibility.
Right, and allegedly has done some pretty bad things.
Right.
I'm not going to want to give up money for his defense.
Well, it's not just that, because the Appraisal Institute has come out and said, Kevin, they're going to fight this. They're going to come out and they said they're going to fight both of these lawsuits. But there's another lawsuit that broke too. We discussed that on the last show. But the big question is these allegations are against Craig Steinle.
Right.
There's going to be other allegations towards other dudes as well.
Right.
It's just the tip of the iceberg.
Now that Dr. Chance has come out and is actively pursuing legal action, how many more people were in the woodworks waiting?
There's other guys in this organization. How many more of them have been, Mr. I think the allegation called him Mr. Handsy or something like that.
Mr. Grabby Hands.
Grabby Hands. Yeah. How many more Grabby Hands are there in the Appraisal Institute? I mean, I've been around for a long time, 28 years in this business, okay? And a lot of the dudes that are in this business are good guys. There are some that are fucking damaged homo sapiens. That's all I got to say. And you know they're out there. This will be the trial of the century. Everybody's going to go on trial. Everybody that she touches, just call a lawyer, because either you're going to be called to the stand or you're going to be deposed in some way. And I fully believe that at the end of the day, when this goes to trial and it's put in front of a jury of her peers,
right, and
they look at this show that's going to be painted like this massive show, it's just going to be bad. It's just going to be bad. And like I said on the last show, because I warned you, some of you people are not spring chickens anymore. You're not springies. You're not spring chicken. You're in your 70s. You're in your 80s. Welcome to litigation late in life. Have fun with that shit. If these accusations are true, you covered this shit up for 30 years, and it's going to hit you hard now, and you're going to end up taking down the credibility of the entire profession. It is amazing. Also, one other thing, this is probably going to end the handshake. It's the handshake. In 11 years, we never talked about the handshake, right? The handshake.
Correct.
The handshake is very important for people to understand. A long time ago, the wise men. So there are wise men in the world, and they belong to the big banks and the big bankers. And the wise men said a long time ago that we're going to hire MAIs. We're going to send appraisal orders to MAIs that work in appraisal firms throughout the country. We're going to try to codify the MAI into certain different laws, and we're going to make it a requirement that the MAI perform these appraisal reports. That was sort of the handshake. That handshake has been in existence for about 30 years, which is why a lot of the certified generals out there that don't have the designation can't get certain jobs, because they require the MAI designation, which in my personal opinion is against FIREA, but that's something totally different. Okay, that's the handshake.
Let's not go down.
Let's not go down there, but that is the handshake that the wise men made. But in order to get the handshake, long ago, they had to make the sacrifice. So you don't just get something for free. You need to make a sacrifice. So the MAIs had the handshake. The sacrifice was the SRAs. The residential appraisers were the sacrifice at the time. And this is back when you get into that big lawsuit that took place with AI Ready and the appraisal. I think it was AI Ready, and they were trying to data mine certain information out of reports and things like that. Remember, there's a lot of people back in the day that knew that if they can get a hold of the data inside of the appraisal reports, the residential side, that they could data mine it and then commoditize the entire industry. And then later they took that commoditization and they called it appraisal modernization, you see. So that was the sacrifice a long time ago. This was a huge lawsuit. As a matter of fact, 0004, Pat Turner was involved in that. He did sue FNC for the AI Ready product, and that hearing took place in front of Justice Alito years and years ago before he was on the Supreme Court. So this goes all the way back. This handshake and sacrifice goes all the way back. And if the Appraisal Institute shits the bed and shits it heavy, the wise men may jump in and be like, this handshake's over. I mean, I don't care what sacrifice you made.
You're on your own.
You're on your own, or we're just not going to require an MAI, period, because your credibility's on the line. If these allegations are proven true, and this culture is accurate, and there is this sexual exploiting and all of these things going on in Chicago,
the reputation of an MAI
means nothing.
Nothing.
It's a matter, and if you're a board member or something like that, I mean, can you imagine the credibility that your credibility is going to suffer so much? It's amazing. I'm floored, but again, this is what happens. We've always warned what's going to happen when somebody that has a massive amount of intelligence, a massive amount of discernment comes into a situation and looks at the appraisal industry and goes, what is going on here? And this is it. Pretty amazing stuff there. So let's go ahead and get into it, Kevin. So here we go, Kevin. This is a 28-page complaint, so I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I'm going to break down a couple things here really quick. Cindy took over as CEO of the Appraisal Institute on or around September 5th of 2023. And then she moved to Chicago in November of 23. She alleges that President Steinle, a paid executive officer and the supervisor of the CEO, began to systematically undermine Chance through a pattern of sexual harassment shortly after she began working for the AI. And as she says here, Chance noticed immediately upon joining AI that the staff organization was functioning poorly and required reorganization and a wholesale culture change. Employees reported bullying by other staff, an inability to do, in some cases, even understand their jobs, and a culture of hostility between the National Organization of Chapters, among other things. Now, we dealt with that, too. There was a big hostility between the chapters and the national group.
Right.
Yeah, that's always been out there. So Chance immediately laid off 4 senior employees in September of 2023 to increase the efficiency of the organization. In and around November of 2023, Chance learned of a complaint by a former employee related to sexual harassment. So she found that out in November of 2023, and in or around January of 2024, Chance learned of a publicly filed sexual harassment lawsuit against AI and Steinle. In or around October of 2023, a couple months earlier, Sandy Adamitis, the incoming 2024 president, and Paula Konikoff, the vice president of the board, told Chance that they both had witnessed Steinle's disparagement and disdain for women on many occasions over many years. Adamitis reported that Steinle had told her directly that he did not trust women and was not capable of working with her or any woman.
Wow.
Konikoff, it gets better. Konikoff reported that Steinle had worked for her and was fundamentally demeaning to women, dishonest, and manipulative.
This is allegedly.
Allegedly. Keep on saying that word.
Wow.
Keep on saying that word. Allegedly. In or around October of 2023, immediate past president Jody Bishop and Sandra Adamitis told Chance that Steinle was falsely claiming to have a relationship with Chance, stating he's telling everyone that you're his girlfriend and that everyone was talking about it, or words to that effect. In or around November of 2023, the same month, Steinle exhibited increasingly manipulative behavior towards Chance, demeaning Chance, suggested that he single-handedly driven change and that she needed to do as he said, because without his support, the board would turn on her and she would be fired. Dude, she just got the job. When? October of 23, she moves to Chicago, and this takes place? Allegedly. Steinle suggested to others that he was in a relationship with Chance, arranged for him and Chance to travel together for business, invited her to personal events, made inappropriate comments to Chance, told Chance to smile, commented that Chance's slacks show off her fit body.
Wow.
On numerous occasions, Steinle sent Chance text messages and called her in which he tried to initiate a personal relationship with her, despite Chance's repeatedly rejecting his advances and telling Steinle that their relationship was strictly professional. In or around November of 23, what a wild fall in 2023, my Lord. Chance heard Steinle say to Mike Mignona, incoming vice president, that they were going to bitch slap her now, referring to Sandy Adamitis. And on around November 10th of 2023, an AI board member, Paula Konikoff, told Chance that she had been the subject of sexual harassment and that the way AI handled it was they had further demeaned her. Paula Konikoff's current president. In or around December, okay, now we're finally into December now, Steinle commented to Chance that both Adamitis and Konikoff wanted to sleep with him, but could not, and this is why they were not more pleasant to him.
Allegedly.
Beginning in or around, now we're to 2024. Beginning in or around January 2024, Chances reported to AI's general counsel, Jeff Lisker, that Steinle was acting inappropriately with her, including showing up to events that she did not expect him to be at and talking about her as if she was her girlfriend. When Chance reported the foregoing to Lisker shook his head and declared, it's terrible, referring to Steinle's mistreatment of Chance. Steinle continued to arrange for him and Chance to travel together for business in the following months, arranging for him and Chance to sit next to each other at all the events, stood inappropriately close to Chance, commented on Chance's body, and publicly called Chance his boss, as one would refer to their wife or their partner. About this time, Adamitis explained to Chance that everyone was afraid of Steinle because he had a well-deserved reputation for retaliation. On or around December 23rd, Adamitis read a lengthy statement to the board in which she complained about the sexism apparent in Steinle's demeaning treatment of her related to members' leadership assignments, stating that Steinle blatantly violated behavioral standards of leadership in the course of her repeated attempts for a conversation, circumventing her authority through sexist manipulation and disparagement. In December 2023, Chance heard Mike Mignogna and Steinle refer to Adamitis as Sandy, I'm a dumbass. He was calling her Sandy, I'm a dumbass. That was the name that they were giving her.
Wow. Allegedly.
Allegedly. In December of 2024, Steinle became the immediate past president, making him responsible for Chance's performance evaluation and compensation decisions in her role as CEO. In January of 2024, at an AI officers retreat, they have an AI officers retreat, Kevin? They have an AI officers retreat. At what a retreat? They paying for that shit? At a retreat, the officers jointly agreed at Chance's urging to implement appraiser-centric messaging and more messaging defending the appraiser profession to fulfill their mission and support growth. Adamitis repeatedly expressed support for Chance's leadership in this regard to AI's board, and membership applauded her for the direction privately and publicly. Following many candid conversations about the culture of harassment and governance dysfunction, Adamitis encouraged Chance to support training for the board provided in February of 2024, given the urgent need for a governance reform to prevent ongoing harassment and abuse and lack of fiduciary care on part of the board's member. The AI board is now getting involved in this complaint. This was very negatively received by Steinle, who admonished Chance for arranging such a training. So he didn't want to have this training take place.
Allegedly.
During the February 2024 board meeting, Chance reported to the board serious governance concerns based on the board members were not acting based on their fiduciary duty, but were acting instead based on their tribal allegiances, regional loyalties, and prior agreements. The AI board, it has now been brought in to the trial of the century.
It's a good old boys network.
It's a good, they're now part of the trial of the century.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Also, during this board meeting, Chance reported to the board that leaders were misusing complex government rules. Yeah, this gets weird. Okay. Also during the board meeting, Chance reported to the board that leaders were misusing complex governance rules, bylaws, and rules and regulations, as well as executive sessions, preventing open discussions of important issues and depriving members of information and transparency into activities of leadership and into the organization. Steinle continued to regularly tell Chance to smile in meetings. You're so much more convincing when you look pretty. Commented on her appearance routinely and now including in front of staff and members. Now we get into February 2024. Adamitis wrote to Chance in response to Steinle's decision to campaign for vice president of the board for another 4 years that I can't believe the women that are campaigning for Steinle already. If only they knew, referring to Steinle's misconduct with women.
Allegedly.
Steinle continued to try to get Chance to accompany him on travel and referred to her in the emails as his quote-unquote favorite person. And on or around February 3rd of 2024, Adamitis texted Chance pictures of Steinle's campaign materials that he sent to members for his bid for vice president of the board. Adamitis was unsupportive of his campaign based on her concerns about his harassment. So it sounds like to me, Sandy Adamitis and Konikoff were not too happy.
No.
With Craig Steinle, if these allegations are true, right? So, in around February 2024, Adamitis arranged a meeting with Rodman Shiley. Shiley reported to Chance that it was widely known that Steinle harassed staff. Among other things, Shiley told Chance that former AI executive officer Jim Amarin resigned when Steinle became president of the board because he knew he would not be able to protect his staff from Steinle.
Wow.
Steinle's campaign included demeaning remarks about Chance and outright lies about the AI's educational offering and incentives. AI advised Chance not to intervene or remark about Steinle's false statements regarding education, as it was forbidden for the CEO to do anything that could impact the election of officers, and she could be fired for sharing her views with the National Nominating Committee and board members since this was a membership level. In or around March or April of 2024. Now we're getting into March or April. We're almost there. A sexual harassment training was provided to all board members and to all staff. Following the resolution of the sexual harassment case against AI in or around April of 2024, Chance was required to address, at the direction of the officers of the board, a confidential matter relating to a former senior staff member. Steinle's demeanor towards Chance changed, and Steinle's communications ranged from frequent manipulative communications to not speaking to Chance, which ramped up during this time as he worked to undermine the efforts of AI's CEO. President Cindy Adamitis reported to Chance at this time that Steinle had now begun telling people that Chance was going to be a short timer, signaling to Adamitis his efforts to undermine Chance. Now, here we go. Now we're into May of 2024, about a year ago.
Right.
About a year ago. In May of 2024, Chance reported to the board that AI was providing inaccurate state certification information due to haphazard organizational practices. Chance reported that these deficiencies required urgent correction as they were creating ongoing problems for professional certifications.
Oh.
In or about the same month, May of 2024, Chance reported to the board that AI had been intentionally overstating membership numbers to shield itself from membership challenges regarding its management. Intentionally overstated membership. Now, they are a nonprofit. So when you do that, I think you have to state that to the IRS. Kevin, who did you used to work for?
I used to work for the Internal Revenue Service.
Do they like it when people do this shit?
I would have to say no.
No.
You could be looking at some serious consequences.
Do you mess with the IRS? Do you?
No.
Al Capone didn't get away with the IRS.
He lost.
He lost. I'm going to continue on here. This is getting kind of, I feel dirty. Okay, here we go. May of 2024, back in there a year ago, Chance reported to the board that the president and other officers were ensuring lucrative teaching opportunities for their friends and themselves. Chance reported that this practice had caused a notable decline in both the quality and diversity of AI's educational offerings and compromised its integrity of what constituted excellence in education. About the same time in May, sounds like she's having a very busy May here, Chance reported concerns to the board of AI's instructor approval process was effectively discriminatory against women and other minority candidates by disproportionately rejecting women and other minority candidates from becoming instructors who were otherwise well qualified or preventing qualified people from gaining teaching assignments. A member of the educational committee put together a report showing this impact that was shared with Lisker, Steinle, and the chair of education committee at the time. In May of 2024, same month, and following the hiring of a new director of education publication, Chance reported to the officers of the board serious issues concerning its education and testing, including an incident where education staff admittedly to the haphazard adding examination questions, resulting in significant issues with incorrect answers. We talked about this on the Biz Now article. That's exactly what came out with the Biz Now article. So that's what they're talking about here. Around May 2024, geez, oh Pete, this is a busy month. Steinle succeeded in his aim to be nominated again as the vice president of the board by the National Nominating Committee, which Chance learned from the board members was a committee selected based on systems of fealty and political allegiances, as with other leadership positions at AI. During the May 2024 board meeting, it was reported to the board a confidential matter relating to a former employee alleging sexual harassment that had been resolved per their direction. So there was a sexual harassment case out there, is what it was, Kevin. In May of 2024, Chance reported to AI's board that there were instances of sexual harassment within inside of the organization, leaving the organization vulnerable for risk. While having had individual conversations with board members about Steinle, Chance was reluctant to name Steinle as the perpetrator by name in her report, since it was clear that Steinle's behavior was being discussed. And Steinle was sitting right next to her during the meeting, scowling at Chance, ignoring Chance, and intimidating Chance. Chance did continue to speak to the people individually about Steinle's abuse following his remarks. In response to and during Chance's remarks to the board, Steinle threatened Chance. Getting mad now. Shortly after the board meeting and following Steinle's intimidating email, and just before a live and recorded Q&A of its members, Steinle groped Chance's rear while he and Chance were walking alone in a hallway in AI's office. Prior to groping Chance, Steinle says, "What if I grabbed your butt?" He then groped Chance without her consent.
Allegedly.
After Steinle groped Chance, he again tried to arrange travel for him and Chance. However, Chance refused to travel again with Steinle. And this is when I actually started to notice Cindy Chance and what she was doing over at the Appraisal Institute. Because we did a show in summer of 2024,
right,
called The Coronation and the Calling, right? So we did the coronation of Kelly Queen of David's over at the Appraisal Foundation, okay? That's when Chance got on my radar, and we started to kind of focus in on what she was doing. So in May of 2024 and into the summer, President Sandy Adamitis made numerous highly supportive public comments about Chance's leadership. In June of 2024, Chance wrote 3 appraiser-centric messages reflecting members' concerns about Appraisal Management Company's business practices, which drew strong comments from Adamitis and Steinle to the effect that Chance should stop talking about Appraisal Management Company. Steinle wrote that Chance's writing had caused the Real Estate Valuation Advocacy Association, that's REVA, the advocacy organization for appraisal management companies, to rescind their endorsement of his nomination as vice president. Steinle insisted, and the officers agreed to force Chance. Okay, now this is where it gets, this is it. Steinle insisted, and the officers agreed to force Chance to attend a meeting with the AMC lobbying organization, REVA, senior executives of AMC's and all AI executive officers in August of 2024, just before the AI board meeting, to, quote unquote, educate her properly on the AMC business model. Those AMC's senior executives were later among those saying Chance would be eminently fired. Chance spoke with board members between June of 2024 and August of 2024, and Chance reported to various AI board members, including Adamitis, Don Butcher, Elaine Ramirez, and Heather Mull, that Steinle was sexually harassing her, undermining her, and retaliating against her. On or around June 18th of 2024, AI's audit co-chairs Mike Tankersley and Richard Wolf contacted Chance requesting certain information, including intrusive and exceptionally unusual inquiries about the staff. Chance objected, and the AI committee told Chance in writing to, quote unquote, watch her tone, and to remember that, quote unquote, as soon as you leave this room, we will have all the power over you.
Whoa.
Who the fuck says that?
Yeah, I mean,
this leadership is like Michael Scott and Dwight Schrute, but like the evil versions of him. It's like, I mean, just this is unbelievable. We have a couple more left here. On or around May 2024, Adamitis told Chance that they must pursue every legal means to prevent Steinle from rejoining the organization as an officer again based on his harassment of women. In May of 2024, Konikoff had a verbal altercation with Steinle at a public event related to his behavior towards her. In August of 2024, AI board member Elaine Ramirez told Chance that Steinle was controlling of women in the AI's board and had a history of issues with sexism and corruption for many years. Ramirez told Chance that she had real concerns about female employees at AI being marginalized, and she witnessed AI employing its audit committee to use force to undermine people such as women, LGBTQ individuals, and outsiders. Ramirez also told Chance that she thought that members of AI's board, the board, were undermining Chance and treating her in a way that was far worse than their treatment of males based on her observations in the audit committee meetings. In August of 2024, AI board members Heather Mull told Chance that Steinle had been sexually inappropriate with her and that she felt uncomfortable because of Steinle's sexual harassment. Mull asked Chance to help facilitate an open discussion with the board about sexual harassment issues and should preclude Steinle from continuing on the board and to ensure that Steinle could not become an officer again because of his sexual misconduct. Chance again reported to Mull that Steinle was also sexually harassing Chance. Mull reported to Chance that the board members were fearful for confronting Steinle based on his retaliation, including using proxies. Proxies are like people that he sends out.
Right.
To do his dirty work.
Allegedly.
On or around August of 2024, Chance reported to the AI board again that there were serious issues related to sexual harassment, bullying, and culture during an in-person board meeting. Board members Rob Elliott responded by asking, why do you keep telling us things we already know?
Oh, we already know this. You don't need to keep telling us.
August 2024, Chance reported to the board that officers and staff were deliberately concealing the poor performance of a high-profile major investment aimed at growing revenue while diversifying the profession. It's the practical application of real estate appraisal, which is also known as PREA. Chance explained that the best course of action was to tell members the truth about the failure of this investment while shrinking or eliminating the program. PREA was a mess. I think they're losing $1 million, like $1.2 million a year, is what I heard. Chance believed that this concealment violated the organization's obligation to inform their members about material business losses and undermined diversity initiatives. On or around August of 2024, AI's board re-elected Steinle to an officer position. Steinle was elected as vice president. Adamitis facilitated the election of Steinle by not following the protocol that had been provided by Chance, which recommended Adamitis to ask Steinle to leave the room and allow for an open discussion by the board of his nomination as vice president, as well as the instruction to the board that they did not need to accept his recommendation. In August of 2024, Joan Barn Grover, AI's special assistant to the CEO, told Chance that the officers were horrible people, referring to their abuse of Chance and protection of one another from the consequences of their malfeasance. And then in August of 2024, Chance again went back to the board officer, reported to the board that officers were attempting to prevent her from addressing harmful practices of appraisal management companies that were damaging members' livelihoods and undermining appraisal quality nationwide.
Sounds to me like at this point in time, they are actively trying to pretty much get rid of her.
Yeah. Remember on that show that we did and we talked about Cindy Chance being fired?
Right.
And I said something along the lines of, we think it's if you get in the way of the money will find a way to get you out of the way.
Exactly.
And it sounds like right around August of 2024,
she's getting in the way.
She's getting the money, and the money's going to find a way to get her out of the way. Exactly right, Kevin. Exactly right. At least that's what it says here in this complaint, which is all allegedly. Okay, so on or around August of 2024, Steinle, as immediate past president, led a process described as a performance evaluation by Chance. By phrasing the process as a performance evaluation, Steinle became in charge of the process and ensured that Chance could not be in the room to address the board. This one's really interesting. At one point during the two-day meeting, Chance was called in and asked questions, including one about a July 11, 2024 meeting she participated in with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which included two appraisers who had been collecting information as whistleblowers. The purpose of this meeting was to express serious issues for consumers in this profession accountable to the public trust, including AMC's acting as a middleman and pocketing a significant percentage of each appraisal fee reported to consumers, the degradation of data on appraisals, and the impact of ongoing self-dealing within the industry, recognized by Director Rohit Chopra in public statements.
Gee, there's that name again.
Yeah, it sounds like the Appraisal Institute maybe knew Rohit Chopra was looking at him a little bit.
Yeah.
Or maybe the AMCs knew that Rohit was looking at him. You know what I'm talking about? During the performance evaluation, board members asked the officers whether they had the responsibility to act based on the fact that Chance had been alerting them of concerns about sexual harassment that needed to be addressed. Adamitis shared with the board that she had no reason to believe that there had been sexual harassment at AI, despite her many claims to the contrary to Chance, to Lisker, to Konikoff, and to many others. In August of 2024, the board's officers prevented Chance with a list of directives. This is where they try to just shut her down a little bit, undermining her ability to function as a CEO, including instructions to immediately stop all media communication that is not in compliance with the executive officers. Basically stated, we unequivocally ask you for 2 weeks lead time to evaluate and collaborate with you on future From Cindy Desk's messages. So the From Cindy's Desk messaging really got under their skin at that time. On September 7, 2024, the new CFO and COO, John Uhlhoffen, who is currently serving as the active CEO, CFO, and COO, sent a letter to Chance notifying her that the behavior of the officers in the board is bordering on financial fraud and that it is apparent that she is being bullied. On or around September 10th and September 11th, 9/11, Adamitis announced another special board meeting from which Chance would be recused under the pretext that the board would be discussing her performance. Neither the board nor Chance ever received any presentation on Chance's performance or the performance evaluation from Steinle. On around September 12th, 2024, AI's board held a special meeting to discuss Chance's recent communications, which centered around the formal written verbal warnings to the officers and board regarding the ethical and legal risk of their present course, including repeated inappropriate and discriminatory behaviors. The board then approved terminating Chance's employment without cause. And then she was fired. Then on around September 12th, the board notified Chance by email that she was terminated without cause. No phone call needed on that one.
Wow.
By email, the board told Chance that she could resign by September 13th, 2024 at 10 a.m. in lieu of termination. Chance immediately began receiving and continuing to receive reports from individuals that Steinle, Konikoff, Adamitis, and others falsely told board members, AI members, and the public that Chance had embezzled $1 million and sold our body of knowledge to for-profit competitors. That there was, quote unquote, something that should have come out in her background check that was discovered, or that, quote unquote, the staff needed to be protected from her. That, quote unquote, if you knew what she did, you'd understand the reason for her termination. Chance of sustained economic damages, mental anguish as a result of the defendant's actions, and she will continue to sustain damages into the future. Allegedly, Kevin. This is it. The appraisal profession will be on trial because she touches everyone. She touches Reva. That will go into Arrow because, remember, Craig Steinle was the president of Arrow.
Right.
He did step down from the organization. He has stepped away inside of the Appraisal Institute. So he has not stepped down. He has just stopped all public appearances, is what he said.
He pretty much is just behind the scenes.
But there's a ton of people on LinkedIn that are MAIs that are they want him to resign. They're calling for his resignation. There's a big kerfuffle there too. I mean, this is just get ready. Just get ready. I mean, for those of you that are worried that you're going to have some sort of criminal implication against you, or this is going to damage your reputation, Kevin and I, we've got 11 years of shows. It's a pretty damn good catalog that's pretty much warning all you that this could happen at some point in time if you don't clean up your houses and you don't watch your antitrust and you don't watch your conflicts of interest, all this stuff.
11 years, we say we don't want to be like, we told you so, but.
No, we told you so.
We told you so.
Told you so. We told you so. We told you so. And now look at what's happening here. And I'll tell you right now, for those of you that are MAIs, the wise men are watching. The wise men in the banking system. They're looking at you. They're going, do we really need these MAIs? Is the handshake coming to an end? So, it's been a long show, Kevin. Sorry it had to be so long, but I wanted to get through all these points right here because Kevin and I are very dramatic people. We come across as very dramatic. We're just dramatic human beings, but all I did was read it. That's all I did. I just read it, right. And it's pretty dramatic. So good luck. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our show, and as always, I would like to thank you for listening as we journey through the mysteries and complexities that are, in fact, the real estate appraisal business. I would like to thank my producer, Kevin Kenny, for being here for his thoughtful insight and knowledge. God willing, we're going to be back here very soon, continuing to report from the front lines of the real estate market. In the meantime, you kiss your spouse, you hug your children, enjoy your day, be safe in the field. You've been listening to Phil Crawford on Voice of Appraisal. We'll talk very soon.